Earth's final warning: stop attacking or we stop pretending to be civilized. HFY story. The galaxy had long underestimated Earth. It was considered a backwater planet, home to primitive, violent creatures who lacked the sophistication and advanced technology that the rest of the universe had come to expect. Yet, despite their flaws, humans had managed to carve out a place for themselves in the cosmic order. They were survivors, and survival, even in the harshest of conditions, had honed them into something more formidable than anyone realized. The attacks on Earth had started small: raids by alien warbands, reconnaissance by unseen forces, and the occasional skirmish that no one paid much attention to. The rest of the galaxy viewed humanity as a curiosity. They had no real interest in humans, beyond the occasional resource extraction or test of their weapons on this primitive race. After all, the humans were divided, fragmented by wars and ideologies. Surely, they were too weak to resist any significant aggression. But they were wrong. For years, humanity had put up with the minor attacks, the probing incursions, the petty invasions. Earth's military was strong, but they didn't escalate. The world leaders, guided by the wisdom of their elders, chose diplomacy over retaliation. After all, humans had always believed in the potential for peace. The idea of civilization, of progress, of understanding, was ingrained deep in their DNA. But the attacks kept coming. Then came the invasion that changed everything. A fleet of massive warships, tens of thousands of them, arrived in Earth's orbit. The alien species responsible was known as the Zerkoth, a ruthless race that had enslaved countless worlds before. Their ships blotted out the sky, and their demands were simple: submit to their rule or face total annihilation. For a while, Earth's leaders hoped for a peaceful resolution. They negotiated, sent emissaries to meet the Zerkoth commanders, and offered all the resources they could muster. But the Zerkoth were not interested in peace. They had made it clear that they had no intention of leaving without their prize. They began their bombardment, targeting cities, military bases, and infrastructure, leaving nothing but death and destruction in their wake. It was in the midst of this chaos that Earth's leaders issued their final message. It wasn't from the UN, the Federation, or any one government. It was the collective voice of humanity, speaking as one. The message was broadcast across every frequency the Zerkoth could access. It was simple and direct. Stop attacking Earth, or we stop pretending to be civilized. The universe had always seen humanity as weak, as soft, as a species too fragile to fight back. But those who underestimated Earth's spirit had made a grave mistake. The world was tired of being attacked, tired of being viewed as insignificant, tired of the constant belief that they were no match for the power of the galactic empires. The message was not just a threat, it was a declaration. Humanity had reached a tipping point, and there would be no turning back. In every corner of the Earth, people were mobilizing. The nations of the world, once divided by political struggles and wars, came together as one. The entire human race had united with a singular purpose: to defend their home. It didn't matter if you were a farmer, a scientist, or a soldier. Every human had a role to play. The Zerkoth, initially confident in their superiority, had underestimated humanity's resilience. They thought their advanced weaponry and vast numbers would crush the planet within days. But they didn't account for one thing: humans had a capacity for violence, for survival, that no other species in the galaxy understood. The world's weapons were primed, and the first wave of resistance struck with the fury of a species that had nothing left to lose. From the ashes of Earth's cities, a new military alliance formed. Mankind built weapons using their own technology, re-engineering alien tech from previous encounters, and creating even more devastating devices. Earth's military, bolstered by citizen volunteers, launched counteroffensive after counteroffensive. The planet was not going to go down without a fight. The Zerkoth underestimated humanity's ingenuity, too. Every time they thought they had a tactic that would crush humanity's resistance, Earth found a way to counter it. The invaders, once so confident in their superiority, began to realize that they were facing something far more dangerous than they had expected: the primal will of a species that had fought tooth and nail to survive on their own planet, for their own future. The war raged on for months. Earth's forces were relentless. Cities were rebuilt faster than they were destroyed. Humans adapted, scavenged, and innovated at a speed no one could anticipate. The Zerkoth were no longer the invaders. They were the ones fighting for survival. And when Earth's final counterattack came, when the human forces, united under a single banner, surged forward with all the might of their species, the Zerkoth were forced to retreat, not because of their fear of superior technology, but because of the raw, unrelenting fury of a species that had been pushed too far. The message was clear: we are not weak. We are not your playthings. We are humanity. In the aftermath of the war, the galaxy was forced to reevaluate its views on Earth. No longer seen as a primitive world, humanity's reputation as a force to be reckoned with spread across the stars. Those who had once thought of Earth as a target now regarded it with caution and respect. Earth's leaders issued one final decree: we are civilized. But if you force us, we will stop pretending. And the universe, for the first time in millennia, understood the message. Humanity was not to be trifled with. Earth's final warning: stop attacking or we stop pretending to be civilized. HFY story continued. The victory over the Zerkoth was only the beginning. News of Earth's defiance and unyielding resistance spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Alien species, who had once thought of humanity as a passing curiosity, now regarded Earth with a mix of fear and respect. The galaxy was forced to come to terms with the fact that humanity was not just a simple, fragile race, they were a force that could not be ignored. As Earth rebuilt in the aftermath of the war, a new era of human unity emerged. Governments that had once been fractured by ideological divides now worked together as a unified front. The countries that had fought against each other in the past turned their attention outward, knowing that the universe could be just as unforgiving as any human adversary. The lesson had been learned: humanity had to be united, not just for survival on Earth, but to protect their place in the larger cosmic order. But this newfound unity wasn't limited to Earth's own borders. An intergalactic council of alien races, once too arrogant to take notice of Earth, sent envoys to meet with human representatives. They came not with demands, but with questions. How had humanity managed to defeat such an overwhelming enemy with so little? Humanity's answer was simple: by never giving up. The galaxy had underestimated the will of humanity. They had seen human wars, human flaws, and human divisions and assumed they would weaken the species. What the galaxy didn't understand was that humans, despite their flaws, were also capable of incredible unity when pushed to their limits, and they would always fight for what they loved: their planet, their people, and their future. However, as Earth's influence began to grow, it became clear that the galaxy was full of those who had no intention of respecting humanity's newfound strength. In the shadows of the cosmos, factions began to stir, races that didn't view Earth as a force to be respected, but as a threat to their dominance. These groups, emboldened by their past successes, saw humanity's rise as a challenge to the established order. One such faction was the Sindrathi Collective, an empire of ruthless conquerors who controlled vast sections of the galaxy. They viewed humanity as an unpredictable anomaly, one that could disrupt their plans for dominance. The Sindrathi had heard of Earth's victory and knew that to maintain control, they would have to strike before humanity grew any stronger. A new invasion loomed on the horizon. But this time, Earth was ready. The Sindrathi made their move, sending a fleet of warships to Earth's orbit, their intentions clear. But unlike the Zerkoth, who had underestimated humanity's resolve, the Sindrathi were met with a new kind of resistance. Earth's technological advancements had accelerated at a staggering pace after the Zerkoth conflict. Humans had reverse-engineered alien technology, improved their military strategies, and developed new forms of weaponry, some of which the Sindrathi had never encountered before. The Sindrathi fleet entered Earth's atmosphere with confidence, only to find that their ships were being hacked and disabled mid-flight. Earth's newly developed defense systems, combined with human ingenuity, turned the Sindrathi's weapons against them. The Sindrathi had come to invade, but Earth was no longer a planet that could be bullied into submission. Once again, humanity's resilience and resourcefulness shone through. The Sindrathi soldiers, prepared for battle, were instead met with guerrilla warfare that used the very terrain of Earth to their advantage. Every mountain, every forest, every urban center became a battleground where humans used their intimate knowledge of the land to outmaneuver their invaders. Yet, as the battle raged on, something deeper began to unfold. Earth's people were no longer simply defending their home, they were fighting for something far more profound. They were fighting for their place in the universe. For the first time, humanity was not just defending its planet but asserting its right to exist alongside the galaxy's more advanced species. They were demanding equality. In the midst of the chaos, a human leader, General Alexei Novak, delivered a speech broadcast to the Sindrathi fleet and the entire galaxy. His voice resonated with defiance and determination. "You thought we were weak. You thought we were beneath you. But you were wrong. We will no longer cower in the shadow of your empires. We are Earth, and you will either treat us with respect, or we will show you what it means to face a civilization that has nothing left to lose. Stop attacking, or we stop pretending to be civilized." The words echoed across the stars, reaching even the furthest corners of the galaxy. The Sindrathi, now facing a determined, united human resistance, realized the cost of their arrogance. Their fleet began to falter, and one by one, their ships were forced to retreat, crippled by Earth's technological superiority and the unrelenting will of its people. Once again, Earth had proven that it was not just a world to be conquered, it was a force in its own right. The Sindrathi withdrew, and in the aftermath, they issued a grudging acknowledgement: humanity was not to be trifled with. This victory changed the course of galactic history. Earth had not only proven itself capable of defending its own, but it had also made a statement: humans would no longer be a side note in the grand history of the cosmos. They would carve out a place for themselves, not as a lesser species, but as equals among the stars. In the years that followed, Earth's influence spread far and wide. The once feared reputation of the Sindrathi was shattered, and other alien factions began to reconsider their stance toward humanity. The human race, emboldened by their victories, would not stand down. They would no longer be the meek creatures hiding in the corners of the galaxy. They would stand tall and proud, their place among the stars firmly established. And the galaxy? It would never forget the lesson it had learned the hard way. Humanity had stopped pretending to be civilized, and the universe would now have to reckon with them on their terms. Earth's final warning: stop attacking or we stop pretending to be civilized. HFY story continued. The Virka's retreat marked the beginning of a new chapter in Earth's galactic history. While they had withdrawn for the time being, the universe had learned a hard lesson. Humanity had been underestimated not once, but twice, and they would never make that mistake again. But the galaxy was vast, and not every species was content to let Earth stand undisturbed. Many saw Earth's victory over the Sindrathi and the Virka as a signal to test their own might against humanity. The question was no longer whether Earth would defend itself, but how far they would go to preserve their newfound place in the stars. It was in the wake of these victories that the Galactic Assembly, a coalition of the most powerful species in the universe, called for a summit to discuss Earth's role in galactic politics. Many species viewed humanity as a potential ally. Others, however, still saw Earth as a dangerous wildcard, a species capable of striking back with unexpected ferocity. Among those who viewed humanity with distrust was the Eldrin Dominion, an ancient and powerful civilization whose reach extended across countless systems. The Eldrin were known for their brutal efficiency in conquest, their reputation as the galaxy's top predators unmatched for millennia. Their fleet of ships was said to be unstoppable, their technology more advanced than any other races. And yet, the Eldrin knew that a species like humanity, one capable of ingenuity, resilience, and unity, was a threat to their carefully constructed order. The Eldrin's leaders had already begun making plans to bring Earth back into its place, under their thumb. The galaxy had tolerated humanity's rise for too long, and the Eldrin had no intention of letting Earth's boldness remain unchecked. A delicate balance was struck, and it seemed for a time that humanity would be caught in the middle of a larger power struggle between the Eldrin Dominion and other races seeking to neutralize Earth's influence. Some were wary of Earth's growing presence in galactic affairs, fearing that this small, aggressive world would eventually disrupt the status quo. But once again, humanity surprised the galaxy. General Alexei Novak had long been regarded as one of Earth's greatest military minds. He had fought on the front lines and navigated humanity's most dangerous battles. But now, he had to navigate the dangerous waters of galactic diplomacy. Earth was about to become a key player in a galaxy full of ancient civilizations that had no intention of letting a young, powerful species claim their place. As humanity's representative in the Galactic Assembly, General Novak stood before the council, a silent roar echoing in his mind. He had seen the best and worst of Earth. He had lived through the wars, the struggles, and the victories. Now, it was time for the universe to hear what humanity had to say about its place among the stars. The moment he spoke, the room fell silent. His voice was calm but heavy with the weight of history. "Look around you," he said. "This galaxy is filled with ancient empires that have long ruled through fear, intimidation, and war. But we are different. Humanity has fought and bled for every inch of ground we've gained. We are a young species. Yes, but we have something you don't. We have something none of you have ever had to fight for." He paused, scanning the faces of the assembled leaders, the alien races who had once thought of Earth as insignificant. "We fight for each other. We fight for our world. We fight for the future. And we will fight together, no matter the odds. So, if you think you can intimidate us, or if you believe you can turn us against each other, remember this: we stopped pretending to be civilized the day we became united in the face of extinction." His words sent a ripple through the room, shaking even the most hardened representatives. The Eldrin delegates, known for their cold precision, exchanged wary glances. For the first time in centuries, they felt the weight of something they had never experienced before: the raw, untamed spirit of a species that would never bow to fear or tyranny. The assembly fell into a tense silence. Some of the older races murmured, questioning whether humanity could really back up such a bold claim. The Eldrin, who had once considered Earth a mere annoyance, now found themselves wondering if they had pushed too far. And then, the unthinkable happened. In a move that no one expected, a small, previously unknown delegation entered the room. Their ships were sleek, their technology sophisticated, and their presence unsettling. These newcomers had no allegiance to any of the major galactic factions, and their silence spoke volumes. They were the Okari, a race of beings who had remained hidden for centuries, watching as the universe unfolded. They had known of Earth's struggles, its rise from the ashes, and its capacity for survival. But unlike the other galactic powers, they saw something different in humanity. The Okari had faced the same struggle for survival in their early history, and they understood the value of unity. The Okari representative, a being cloaked in shimmering energy, stepped forward and addressed the assembly. Their voice, though soft, carried an unmistakable power. "We have watched humanity's rise with keen interest, and we have come to a conclusion. It is not your technology or your weaponry that makes you strong. It is your spirit. Earth's people have proven that when faced with extinction, they will fight not just for themselves, but for each other. The galaxy has never seen such a force." The Okari paused, their energy shifting as if drawing strength from the collective focus of the room. "We have long remained in the shadows, observing, but now, we offer you a choice. We can either remain fragmented, where each power seeks to control or destroy the other, or we can unite. Earth's rise has set a precedent. A new era is possible, one where we, too, might leave behind the ancient ways of dominance and forge something new." The Okari's words resonated through the assembly, the implication clear: the galaxy could continue in its endless cycle of power struggles, or it could follow humanity's example and rise above old grudges. They had seen the future, and they knew that it could either be a unified galaxy, or one that would continue to splinter under the weight of its own pride and greed. The choice was now in the hands of the assembly. The Eldrin, whose control over the galaxy had been unchallenged for millennia, were caught in a position they had never expected, facing not just humanity, but a unified front of species who were starting to see Earth not as an anomaly to be crushed, but as a catalyst for change. And humanity, standing tall at the center of the galaxy, made their position clear. The universe would no longer be a place where the strong thrived at the expense of the weak. Humanity had proven that it could rise, survive, and unite against all odds. Now, it was time for the galaxy to decide whether they would stand with Earth, or be swept aside by the tide of change humanity had set in motion. As General Novak looked out across the galaxy's representatives, he knew one thing for certain: Earth's final warning had been heard loud and clear. And the universe would never be the same again. Earth's final warning: stop attacking or we stop pretending to be civilized. HFY story continued. The atmosphere in the Galactic Assembly was charged with tension, the weight of unspoken possibilities hanging in the air. The Okari had laid down their challenge, but humanity's role was far from settled. The Eldrin Dominion, proud and calculating, had always ruled the galaxy with their own vision of order, one rooted in dominance and control. They were not about to let a young species, especially one as unpredictable and volatile as humanity, determine the future of galactic governance. And yet, as General Novak stood before the assembly, the room had already shifted. He had not intended to merely speak for humanity. He had spoken for something greater. He had shown them that Earth was no longer the weak, divided world that could be easily manipulated. Humanity was now a force that would no longer be swept aside. In the wake of the Okari's bold declaration, the galaxy's most influential races found themselves at a crossroads. Some were drawn to the idea of unity, seeing the potential for cooperation with Earth as a step toward a new era. Others, especially the more conservative factions like the Eldrin, saw Earth's rising influence as a direct threat to their centuries-old dominance. The Okari's influence had not been underestimated. They were known for their wisdom and restraint, and their presence brought a weight of legitimacy to the idea of a new galactic order. The problem was that many of the galaxy's established powers that had long seen themselves as the ultimate authority, were not willing to let go of the old ways. They had built their empires on the subjugation of others. A galaxy united under the principles of peace and equality was not something they were ready to accept. For weeks, negotiations continued. Tensions ran high as diplomats from every corner of the galaxy jockeyed for position, attempting to carve out an advantage. But the balance of power had irrevocably shifted. The mere fact that humanity had not only survived, but thrived in the face of countless adversaries had made an undeniable impact. Their ability to unite in the face of adversity was a concept that could not be easily dismissed. General Novak, now an emblem of Earth's unwavering spirit, found himself engaged in heated discussions, not just with the Eldrin and their allies, but with the representatives of other species who feared Earth's growing influence. The Okari had offered humanity an invitation to lead, but Novak understood that true leadership wasn't about power, it was about choice. Earth had already proven its ability to fight and defend. Now, it was time to prove it could lead with wisdom and compassion. However, the path to leadership was fraught with challenges. As the debates in the assembly grew more intense, a new crisis emerged, one that threatened to tear apart the fragile alliance Earth had worked so hard to build. A rogue faction of Sindrathi, remnants of the once dominant empire, had resurfaced from the depths of the galaxy. These Sindrathi sought revenge for the humiliation they had suffered at the hands of humanity. They were no longer the expansive, unified force they once were, but they were ruthless. They knew how to exploit weaknesses, and they were ready to make their move. The Sindrathi remnants attacked a neutral world near the edges of the galaxy, a world with no allegiance to any of the major powers. The attack was swift, brutal, and calculated. The Sindrathi were sending a message: no one defies the galaxy's order and lives to tell the tale. The timing of the attack could not have been worse. The assembly was still divided, with many factions uncertain about how to proceed with Earth's newfound status. The Eldrin Dominion saw an opportunity. They proposed a swift and decisive intervention, one that would neutralize the Sindrathi threat while sending a clear message to humanity that the galaxy still operated under their rules. But General Novak knew this wasn't just about military might, it was about the future of the galaxy. Humanity had fought for its survival before. This time, Earth would not fight for dominance, but for something greater, the future of the galaxy itself. As the Sindrathi threat escalated, Novak took a bold step. He convened a council with representatives from across the galaxy, those who had already expressed interest in a new order, those who had witnessed humanity's strength, and those who were still uncertain. Earth would not respond with brute force alone. Instead, they would form an alliance of species that would fight to protect not just their own worlds, but the very idea of peace. In a groundbreaking move, Earth brokered a peacekeeping alliance, the Coalition of the Resilient, a group of races united by the desire to break free from the old cycle of conquest and control. Humanity led the charge. But this was not about Earth alone. It was a joint effort, one that demanded cooperation and the willingness to trust that unity could achieve more than dominance ever had. The Sindrathi remnants, sensing their window of opportunity closing, launched a final offensive against a heavily populated colony world. It was here that humanity's leadership would be tested like never before. The coalition's forces, under Earth's leadership, responded with unmatched precision. Rather than simply repelling the Sindrathi, they sought to cut off their escape routes and isolate the rogue faction. The objective was not to annihilate, but to neutralize the threat without further bloodshed, an act of mercy the Sindrathi could hardly fathom. When the final battle ended, it was not the Sindrathi's defeat that left the deepest impression. It was the way the coalition, under Earth's guidance, had executed their strategy. The enemy had been contained without unnecessary destruction. Civilians were protected, and even the Sindrathi combatants were offered a path to surrender. For the first time in history, a galactic power had shown the wisdom to avoid total annihilation in favor of a peaceful resolution. The galaxy was stunned. The Eldrin, who had always operated by the rule of power, could not ignore the results. Earth had proven that leadership wasn't about crushing your enemies. It was about creating a future where enemies could become allies. In the aftermath of the Sindrathi defeat, Earth's position in the galaxy was solidified. The coalition of the resilient became the new model for galactic governance, one based on mutual respect, shared resources, and the belief that peace was worth fighting for, even when the temptation for power was great. The galaxy would never be the same. The Okari had seen it, the Eldrin had felt it, and every race that had once dismissed humanity as insignificant now recognized Earth's place in the stars. Earth had stopped pretending to be civilized. It had shown the galaxy what true civilization could be. And as General Novak stood at the forefront of this new era, he delivered one final message to the galaxy. We may not be the strongest. We may not always be the smartest, but we will always be the ones willing to fight for what's right. That is the essence of humanity, and it is the essence that will guide us all to a better future. And so, Earth became the heart of a new, united galaxy. The final warning had been given. The galaxy had been forever changed. Humanity had proven that the greatest power of all lay not in dominance, but in unity. Earth's final warning, stop attacking or we stop pretending to be civilized. HFY story, continued. With the Sindrathi remnants defeated and the coalition of the resilient firmly established, the galaxy's once chaotic political landscape began to shift. What had started as an uneasy alliance between Earth and a handful of other races was now a beacon of hope for those tired of the endless cycles of war and dominance. Humanity, once considered nothing more than a primitive species among galactic giants, had evolved into the unifying force that everyone had underestimated. But with power came new challenges. The Eldrin Dominion, although temporarily subdued, could not sit idle for long. They had watched as humanity's coalition grew in strength and influence, and though they had been forced to respect Earth's leadership in the face of the Sindrathi threat, they were not yet ready to concede their position at the top of the galactic hierarchy. And so, the Eldrin began to play the long game. Rather than outright confrontation, they worked behind the scenes, carefully crafting a series of events designed to test Earth's resolve, to fracture the growing unity of the coalition. They had learned from their past mistakes. Direct aggression would not work against humanity, but subtle manipulation could. Using their influence, the Eldrin began to sow discord within the coalition, offering promises of power to those races that might consider breaking their alliance with Earth. They knew that Earth's success had been built on unity, and if they could shake that foundation, they could reverse the tide. In response, General Alexei Novak and Earth's leadership prepared for the inevitable next move. They had learned that peace was a battle in itself, one that required constant vigilance. The threat now wasn't a single enemy, but the forces of division, greed, and old prejudices that lurked in the shadows of every galactic power. It didn't take long for the first cracks to appear. A group of smaller, lesser-known factions, species that had only reluctantly joined the coalition, began to question the wisdom of continuing their allegiance to Earth. They were presented with offers by the Eldrin Dominion, promises of advanced technology, new military alliances, and a return to the old order, where power was the only true currency. A world in the fringe territories, one that had long been neutral, suddenly found itself facing the pressure of a rebellion. The Eldrin had backed a separatist movement, promising them independence and protection, hoping to pry the world away from Earth's influence. The tension quickly escalated, and for a moment, It seemed as if the galaxy would once again fall into chaos. But humanity had learned the lessons of their past, and Earth's leadership knew that it could not afford to allow the galaxy to fall back into the hands of those who would divide and conquer. The time for passive diplomacy was over. If the galaxy's future was to be ensured, the coalition had to act swiftly. General Novak convened an emergency summit of the coalition's leadership. This time, there would be no hesitation, no indecision. Humanity had proven its ability to unify, but now it had to prove that it could stand firm against the forces that would tear them apart. The coalition's strategy was simple but bold. They would not only defend the world under siege, but they would launch a counteroffensive against the Eldrin-backed separatists. The goal was not just to protect one world, but to send a message across the galaxy. The coalition was united, and Earth would not allow anyone to divide them. The war that followed was brief but intense. The separatist forces, backed by advanced Eldrin technology, fought with ferocity. Yet, they underestimated the strength of the coalition's unity. The forces that stood with Earth, veterans of previous wars, races once divided, fought as one. Earth's military strategies, honed in countless battles, combined with the support of former enemies, turned the tide. When the final strike came, it was clear, the coalition was not just a political alliance. It was a military force, one that could stand firm against any threat, internal or external. The separatists were forced into retreat, and the Eldrin's plans to weaken Earth's power had failed. But the victory was more than just military, it was symbolic. The galaxy saw, for the first time, that Earth's leadership was not merely reactive but proactive, not only defending their own but strengthening the foundation of the future they had built together. The coalition had held, and the galaxy's new order was secure. The Eldrin, still unwilling to openly acknowledge their defeat, began to recede into the background, watching carefully. They had learned that while they could manipulate, they could not dominate the will of a united Earth. They could not break the spirit of a species that had learned, over and over again, how to rise from the ashes. In the aftermath, General Novak addressed the coalition, his words firm and resolute. "We've proven something today. It's not about how strong our weapons are, or how advanced our technology is. It's about this unity. This is our strength, and if any power in the galaxy dares to test us again, they will learn what we've already learned. When we stand together, no one can break us." The galaxy had watched, and they had learned. Humanity's journey was no longer about surviving. Earth was now a beacon of leadership and strength, one that inspired those willing to embrace the future of unity over division. The Eldrin, though they remained a formidable force, knew they had been outmaneuvered. The next step for the galaxy was unclear, but one thing was certain: Earth had changed the course of history. The message had been received loud and clear. No longer would humanity pretend to be civilized. They had proven they were capable of far more. They were the architects of a new order. The galaxy, once divided, was slowly but surely being pulled toward a future where cooperation, not conquest, would rule the stars. And as General Novak stood at the helm of this new era, he spoke again, not just to his own people, but to every race watching from the farthest reaches of space. "This is the future we've chosen, and if anyone doubts that, they'll soon learn what happens when humanity is no longer afraid to show its true strength. We are not just survivors, we are the guardians of the galaxy's future." With those words, the galaxy entered a new age, one shaped by Earth's indomitable spirit and its unwavering belief that the greatest power lay not in the force of arms, but in the strength of unity. And from that moment on, no one would forget what it meant to stand with humanity.